Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 21st Annual Indigenous Graduate Student Conference Symposium. Somebody asked me today, what does symposium mean? And I said, I think it's a fancy word for conference. But if I were to look up a definition, I think it really means a bunch of people coming together and sharing ideas and knowledge. So I think that's quite appropriate. My name is Jody Bauche. I'm a SAGE coordinator with SFU. This is my counterpart. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie, McCallum, and I'm the UBC SAGE coordinator.
We're your MCs for this morning and this afternoon. We do have a really packed agenda this morning. If you should have any questions, don't hesitate to come find one of us, and we'll try to answer your questions. There have been changes to the schedule. There's been some students that weren't able to come, so other people are replacing them. So really, I really hope you just have a good time and kind of go to your session and be surprised by who might be in the room that's not on the schedule. We're gonna have our elder Marie do a land acknowledgement and welcome and blessing for the day. And so she's over here and she's gonna set us off in a good way. So thank you.
I raised my hands up to Creator ancestors and to elders past and present and to all of you here today. To the Indigenous graduate, welcome students from near and far, visitors, guests, faculty, and staff to the SAGE 21st Annual Indigenous Graduate Student Symposium. And what was that again? That meant fancy conference. SFU respectfully acknowledges the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, Squamish, Musqueam, Kwantlen, Katzie, Kaikite, and Semiahmoo and Tsawwassen people, on whose traditional unceded territories our 3 campuses at SFU reside. Welcome. My name is Marie Hooper. I am a knowledge keeper, storyteller, ambassador for my nation, and I travel to Surrey, Vancouver campuses for openings, welcomings, and workshops, events. I'm an in-resident at the Indigenous Student Center at Burnaby campus. I also work for the Tri-Cities, Coquitlam, Port Moody, also doing presentations, storytelling, sometimes drumming and singing, blanketing, etc. I'm an Indigenous trained guardian of the lands and work in archaeology and artifact recovery for my nation, Coquitlam. I'd like to open up this event in a positive, good way. Today, our communities are working to decolonize and to heal from our past. We raise our hands up to those who journey with us in the spirit of reconciliation and in recognition of challenges faced by the colonial history. I am proud to be invited. I am proud to stand before all of you here today and to be at this event. I can learn from you today. I hope I'm going to learn. If I listen, I will learn. I'm honored to be here in attendance. And at SFU campuses, we have the young and the not so young studying, researching here, which I'm very proud of each and every one of you. I recently attended a 3-day conference in Vancouver, the IGSS Indigenous Residential School Survivors, with 3 of my elders from our nation, Coquitlam. I learned a lot there. One thing that stood out to me is the elders speaking, telling their stories. And although they were very, very sad stories, I'm glad I had the privilege to hear those stories. And the message that I got, and I was asked to share wherever I go, whenever I'm up, where I have an audience, to to speak out. They said, always have a voice. That's something my mother has always taught me, to always stand up, have a voice, speak for the good. So what they are wanting is for all our nations to stand together, to work together, to come together, so our voices can be heard, changes can be made for Indigenous people, changes for all people here in Canada and around the world. So that was the message from the elderly that were there. Some were as old as 94 or as young as 94. I'd like to say a blessing now. Creator, we the people have gathered here today in a respectful way. We pray for continued success, overcoming obstacles on our path through life's journey. Guide us to continue to teach us, walk with grace, honor, compassion, friendship, and kindness. Thank you, Creator, for your teachings, our ancestors, our elders. We continue to move forward, networking, learning together, side by side. May we share this blessed day and days yet to arrive. Help us to continue to listen compassionately, to speak humbly, and to act justly, today and every day. Prayers for all who walk through these doors. Keep us safe at our gathering. May you have the strength of the eagle wings, the faith and the courage to fly to new heights, and the wisdom of the universe to carry you there. First Nations people say not mot, meaning one heart, one mind. Haitchka, thank you all.
So I wanted to just welcome you to 2024's SAGE IGSS. This is a really exciting time and for all of us, and I'm excited to be here today as a helper. The intent of this gathering is to create a safe space for emerging and established Indigenous scholars to come together, to visit, to share knowledge, and to create academic networks. My personal experience of SAGE started at the very end of my master's program. I discovered it when I found Joanne Archibald's Storywork book. And luckily, I got her to be my supervisor during my PhD program. So I was mentored and taught by one of the finest women scholars on the map. So I feel very blessed to have had that experience. Once I discovered SAGE, I attended every single one that I could when it came around every year. And it was a really good place to test your research. I was talking to one of the students earlier. She was talking about how nervous she was about presenting. And I said, well, you get to come back every year because your research morphs as you do more research. It changes and shifts, and you get to come and share it in a safe place where you can exchange that information with other Indigenous scholars. So this is the best place to be, to do that. We can't do this alone. I work in the grad studies unit at Simon Fraser University, and I really believe that a big part of reconciliation is to have our voices and our faces be seen. That's what this is about. But we can't do that alone. We have to have solid, good settler ally partners in the institution. I was lucky that my previous dean, Jeff Dirksen, and now my current dean, Mary O'Brien, are right there with me, walking alongside me on this path of reconciliation. And Mary supports it. We're a living example of reconciliation in action. And there are people behind the scenes within my unit who have been working madly alongside me, getting all the stuff done. The communications gals helping with the graphics, creating the program. And our finance manager has been absolutely excellent. And so those are the behind the scenes kind of partnerships that we have that we can't allow to be invisible. And one of our communications staff gals, Charity, I don't know if she's in the room, but she's working on a Saturday for us. You know, so that to me is amazing partnership. So Mary O'Brien comes to us from U of A, and earlier this year I attended the Western Deans Conference along with Mary and other colleagues within the unit. And I got to see that the University of Alberta is in the lead in terms of Western Canada in this so-called decolonization and indigenization. So we're lucky that Mary gets to come and work with us and help us shift and transform those policies and procedures that we have at SFU that need to be more inclusive in terms of Indigenous peoples as well as other people of color. So I always say that we walk alongside them as well. It's not just for us, it's for everyone. And with that, I will turn it over to Mary.
I promised Dorothy I would be quick. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be with all of you here today. I am a settler, and I've been living on these wonderful lands for the past 7 months. I'm of Irish descent, and I grew up in Chardon, Ohio, on the lands of the Erie and Mississauga peoples. As the Dean of Graduate Studies, it's my responsibility to come to understand truth and to walk with all of you on the journey toward reconciliation. I acknowledge Elders Reg and Rose Crowshoe from the Piikani Nation in southern Alberta, who were my first teachers and who've taught me things like how to walk on parallel paths, what it means to live as a relative, and how to work together in a good way. Since I've come to SFU, I've had the opportunity to learn from many of you. I'd especially like to acknowledge Dorothy Christian, who teaches me every day what it means to be an ally. I'd like to thank the planning committee, both students and faculty members who served as guides, for their hard work, and to congratulate all of you on today's event. Special congratulations go to Jody and Mackenzie. Thanks for all your work. Getting back to Dorothy, just very quickly, she was away this fall, and a few of us tried to bring together people to organize this event in her absence. We weren't sure it was going to happen. We didn't have the skill, or more importantly, the ability to inspire people to action like Dorothy did. So thank you, Dorothy. We should all be grateful to Dorothy and, of course, to everyone else who planned the event today. I'm honored to be joining you today for the IGSS. I join you with humility, and I look forward to learning from all of you with an open mind and an open heart. Thank you.
We'd like to ask Dr. Maggie Kovach and Dr. Shawn Wilson to come up and give some words about SAGE, UBC Okanagan and UBC Vancouver.
Tonse, bonjour, and greetings. It is really wonderful to be here today at the Indigenous Graduate Student Annual Symposium, and I'm putting annual in there because it really has been annual for over 21 years, and that is such an achievement. I want to thank all of those at the Simon Fraser University, as well as some folks at UBC who've helped to ensure that the IGSS is once again a wonderful, successful event. It's a beautiful morning to acknowledge the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people of the Coast Salish Territory. Haichka Siem. A warm miigwech and a Haichka Siem to our elder for bringing strong and caring message to start our day and to start our conference in a good way. I'm absolutely delighted to be here to give greetings from the University of British Columbia, Vancouver campus to all of you attending. The conference title this year is Indigenous Knowledges in the Academy. Walk in like your ancestors sent you. In these challenging times, it is so vital that we remember the teachings of the elders and the ancestors. It matters to our world that we walk with all our relations in a way that is grounded in our culture, in a respect for ourselves, and a respect for others. It matters that we honor and practice the values of relationality, such as kindness, diplomacy, compassion, and love. The yearly IGSS gathering is a symposium of the SAGE program. The host this year asked me to talk a little bit about SAGE and its importance. The SAGE program, the long title, is Support Aboriginal Graduate Enhancement. And it has a long history in this territory. For over 20 years, SFU and UBC have helped to make sure that IGSS happens. As I was speaking to folks last night, and when I talk about SAGE in any capacity, I'm often reminded how SAGE is a heart project. For over 20 years, SAGE has purposefully and intentionally focused on working to uphold Indigenous graduate students and to create a space where Indigenous graduate students can see, feel, and actualize a sense of community and belonging within the academic spaces they find themselves in. SAGE originated in New Zealand through the efforts of Maori scholars, and the founding goal of SAGE was to build a critical mass of Maori doctoral students. In 2005, the SAGE was introduced to the Faculty of Education at UBC Vancouver, and it has found a home there, as it has found a home at SFU and various universities across our province and across Canada. Last year at SAGE, in our milestone anniversary, the 20th year, Dr. Joanne Archibald, a founding faculty champion of SAGE, shared with IGSS many of the reflections of those SAGE beginnings. And since its beginning in Canada, SAGE has, as I mentioned, been adopted across Turtle Island. It has been a welcoming place to all Indigenous students, graduate students from across diverse academic disciplines and unit. It's built upon an Indigenous mentorship design and includes an Indigenous graduate student coordinator. Our coordinators today have introduced themselves. SAGE Indigenous faculty mentor, and all of you SAGE graduate participants. With a minimal budget each year, SAGE supports a number of activities, including this annual IGSS. And over the past 2 years at UBC Vancouver campus and the UBC Okanagan campus, we have worked to collaboratively ensure that there is a SAGE presence. From September to April each year, SAGE provides activities for Indigenous graduate students delivered vis-a-vis virtual and face-to-face events, such as fall meet and greets, SAGE Saturdays with invited guests, SAGE writing circles, SAGE sharing circles, and of course this event. Additionally, SAGE puts out communications, and for example, many of you are familiar with the SAGE listserv. According to our SAGE 2023 report, the SAGE listserv has over 382 subscribers, including Indigenous graduate students, SAGE alumni, and those interested in Indigenous graduate studies from across Canada and the US. This year, UBCO and UBC SAGE team are carrying out a SAGE study that I'm involved with, and so is Shawn and Monty over there, the big guy, that's kind of gray hair. And so if Robert Mahikwa talked about it last night. So if you're interested in participating in that SAGE study, we're doing it in order to make sure there is research showing how effective SAGE is so it continues to be funded. So it's not uncommon to see Indigenous graduate students find their way to SAGE and IGS regardless of their area of chosen studies, their disciplinary programs, or their territorial boundaries. The belonging and community that SAGE offers is recognized by those who experience SAGE through events like IGSS. The SAGE circle is always open and never broken. So to close, when we walk like the ancestors sent us here, we walk in and with community. We walk with strength. We walk with care. We walk with kindness. And I know that you will have a wonderful experience at IGSS this year. I look forward to spending time with you today. Enjoy. Hi. IGSS Ekoze. Thank you.
So I'm Shawn, Tansy. I'm Shawn Wilson from Opasquet Cree Nation. I live and work on Syilx territory in the Okanagan Valley at UBC Okanagan. I was just trying to think of what I was going to say here. And I thought I'd tell a story, but then I was thinking, oh, well, there's not really snow on the mountains. So it's not, can't really tell that kind of story. So maybe I'll tell you a bit more of a personal story. When we think about walking like our ancestors sent us, it's an interesting thing looking out and seeing all these Indigenous faces here. Because for me, it's such a privilege to be at a space like this. I was really fortunate to get to talk to a lot of elders when I was growing up. So I remember talking with elders that can recall when the people from here got sent on a barge across the river. So the longhouse at Capilano was evacuated and they were sent away. I can remember talking with elders, Dr. Art Blue, I can remember when he got sent away to residential school. When he came back from residential school, his whole community had starved to death in the 1950s. I talked with another elder in Alaska who's can remember the first time that there was a white person came into their community. And he remembered also how the whole community had to get together to recover from the Spanish flu when it came through and killed most of the people in his community. So there's a real history of dispossession of our people being forced off this land. So to me, it brings great joy to see us all back together and reasserting who we are and where we stand on this land. And just through our very being, standing here and recognizing that all those elders are standing behind us. They're supporting us. They're supporting you. So just, I'm thankful for those people that are behind me and just feel the privilege of being in everyone's presence. Because for me, that's what life is all about. And it's when we can pass on what we're learning to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation after that, that's what ensures that we will still be here 1,000 years from now, and we will still be looking after our land. We'll still be looking after each other. And that's what will allow us to survive. So just keep doing what you're doing. It's great. That's the big message. Just keep going. Just keep walking.
I'm going to ask Dr. Wenona Hall to come up and help out with this. I'm very humbled to have been asked to do this work. We are going to adapt and adjust a West Coast witnessing ceremony to the academic environment. And we've done some shortcuts because of time. And I just want to acknowledge that we are in a very auspicious time in terms of the universe, because on March the 19th at 8:06 p.m. in the Pacific time, we went into the spring equinox. And from what I know about ceremony, the 4 days before and the 4 days after is also a very powerful time. So I feel that we're doing this witnessing ceremony at a very critical time in terms of the energies of the universe. Now, my knowledge and experience of the witnessing ceremony, the Coast Salish witnessing ceremony, is limited. And we are being guided by Dr. Wenona Hall, who is the chair of Indigenous Studies at SFU from the Stolo Nation. And she did try to tell me how to say her ancestral name, but I don't dare try. Now, Chris Lewis, who is from the Squamish Nation, would normally be doing this role as speaker for the Sage family at SFU, well, and UBC, because we work together in this endeavor. But Chris is in Zanzibar right now at a destination wedding. So I was asked to do this. So Wenona will be our floor director, and she's instructed me to explain the meaning of this blanket and this headscarf that was put on my head earlier. Normally, this would be done in ceremony, in a ceremonial fashion, but because of time, we did it previous to this so that it's all done. So the blanket represents the energy that's going across my heart. And the headscarf is to connect my brain to my heart so that we can come together here and I can do this work with a good heart, a good mind, a good body, and a good, strong spirit. So my previous experience with the Coast Salish witnessing ceremony was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I worked in film and television production. And I was given the privilege of filming a process that the Squamish Nation was engaged with Vancouver urbanites. So they transported people from the city. They were working in collaboration with the Roundhouse Community Center. So they would take busloads of people up the valley to their territories, and they would be there on the land and experience activities on the land. And they actually invoked a witnessing process that I was given permission to film. So I was there, and that's what I listened intently to what the knowledge keepers shared about what it means to be a witness. And what I heard and kept is that in that role and responsibility, we are to be living newspapers, to take what you see, hear, experience, and observe in this day that you spend with us, take it back to your family, take it back to your communities, and share it widely so that people come to know about this event, the Indigenous Graduate Student Symposium. So I was able to interview 2 witnesses for that television production, and I got to speak to them in depth. So I got to see the impact of what the witnessing process did to those 2 individuals in terms of how they were to conduct themselves on Squamish Nation territories. And it really affected me because I know that when I first moved to Vancouver, I call Coast Salish peoples my Coast Salish cousins, and because I come from the interior. I'm Shakwapmik and Silks. But I know that when I first moved here, I went to each one of the host nations and brought a gift and sat with an elder and introduced myself and explained what I was doing here on their land. So it's, I've been very blessed. I've been worked as a helper in some Coast Salish ceremony in the Longhouse, but I've also done ceremony in other ways on these lands. So I'm very humbled to be asked to do this process. So I will let our director of the floor explain what we're going to do next.
Thank you, Dorothy. I think you did a really good job of explaining. I love the walking newspaper analogy. So for everybody that is here today, you are all tasked with being witnesses for what you're going to hear, listen, and learn throughout the day. We're also, though, going to be calling a few witnesses from the room. And if I could get our family to come stand here. And we'll get T just to start there, and then our family will line up. So as we call witnesses, they will come and thank you for taking on this responsibility. Everyone has it. But in particular, the ones that we're calling, at the end of the day, there's going to be opportunity for up to 4 of the called witnesses to share back at the end of the day and to reciprocate what you have heard. Oh, reciprocate, I like that word from last night. I'm still thinking about it. To share back what you learned and what you heard for the day. And I think that is good. So normally, I know it's usually a man that does the speaking for the family, but we're honored to have Dorothy be our speaker because we do have a mic. And I will share with you the reason why generally it's men is because men have booming voices. But today we have a mic, so that works. And also because sometimes the work that you do as a family can be heartfelt, emotional work. And generally speaking, just making generalizations, for women, we're the tearers, we're the criers. And I don't know if you've ever heard Oprah say, don't ever go into that ugly cry, because then you can't talk at all if you fall into that. And men tend not to. So as you're doing the heartfelt work, it's easier for men to stay with that composure and that loud voice so that the message that the family is wanting to get across is relayed. So we're going to go ahead and start the calling of our witnesses.
The first witness we're calling is Mary O'Brien. And the second witness we're calling is Maggie Kovach. And the third witness we're calling is Shawn Wilson. And the next witness we're calling is Dustin King. And the next witness we're calling is Zoe Todd. The witnesses can sit. Do we have Michael Chutskoff in the room? He's a student. Is Gracie Crafts in the room? Gracie is also one of our student presenters. We also have an elder guest from Hawaii here, Larry Kimura. And we're calling Deanna Rader. Our last witness we'll call is Kawi. Thank you very much for your help to the Sage family. Cook's Jam.